Hello, and welcome to the Whistle Stop Revision Tour for Ozymandias by Percy Bysshe Shelley. We're going to start by going over the overall message, which can essentially be boiled down to power is fleeting. We can expand by saying leaders and other powerful people might try to establish their identity through power and greatness in the hopes of becoming sort of immortal in people's knowledge and memories of them. They want their power to be eternal, even beyond their inevitable deaths. This poem also shows generally man's struggle or war with nature. So in this poem, unlike Storm on the Island or Exposure, where nature is very actively attacking people, we've got nature as sort of a passive combatant. It uses time and its weapon. And time, like death, is inevitable and inescapable. Time will always overcome power because it causes power to fade in people's memories. And you can't be powerful if nobody knows who you are. Let's move on to the structure. So, Ozymandias is a sonnet which is traditionally used for love poems. We can use this to show that Ozymandias is potentially showing the Ozymandias' love of power. Sonnets traditionally have a volta, a turning point, and here the turning point is where we see that the kingdom has been destroyed entirely by that desert nature. There's no ruins left, only sand, endless, eternal, powerful, all-consuming, everything Ozymandias hoped he could be. We can also say that we think of the desert as the sort of ancient, timeless thing, so it's like the past for Ozymandias. However, this is also the future for any of those arrogant, powerful leaders we might see today. Looking back at the overall context, Shelley particularly disliked monarchies or any other rule of absolute power, as he felt it inevitably led to the oppression of ordinary people, which as a romantic he was very much against. He spoke out mostly for emotion over logic and really emphasized the power of nature over mankind. Right. So let's look at the most important quotes going through here. We start with this idea that the narrator met a traveler who said. So straight in the first two lines, we get the idea that this is a second-hand account. This is not the narrator having gone and see it for himself. This is a traveler who's seen this discovery of a forgotten statue. And this statue's been forgotten for thousands of years that it's been buried, about 3,000 years. And that just goes to show how unbelievably unimportant Ozymandias ended up being. Nobody knows his name anymore, and now this information is being relayed to others as sort of a new discovery thousands of years later. Again, the statue itself, we're told it has a shattered visage that's described for us. The visage being the face. And this is actually quite a literal description of the statue as it stands today. The face itself is forgotten. It's unkempt. Nobody's been maintaining it or fixing it when it looks a little bit broken. And the face itself is broken, which is the opposite of that power that Ozymandias felt he had. And the juxtaposition there shows that, no matter how powerful we believe we are, time will always break that down. The irony there, which Shelley uses throughout the poem, is that the powerful cannot escape the inevitable ravages of time. That's just something which will always occur, and there's nothing else that could possibly happen. Towards the end here, we get Ozymandias sort of speaking about himself, and he labels himself quite arrogantly as a king of kings. Now, in Egyptian culture, their Egyptian kings were actually believed to be the reincarnation of their actual gods. This idea that, there is that immortality, untouchableness. And again, it reflects that arrogance of power that Ozymandias had about himself, that he believed that of all the most powerful people, he stood above them as their superior. We also have that reference to the Bible, the modern day God. Jesus is called the King of Kings in the Bible. And Ozymandias also tells others to look on his works and despair. Once again, we have the irony in that he's saying others should feel insignificant when they look upon this great statue he's built as a reflection of his amazing, glorious power. But the reality is that time has in fact shown that he is insignificant because nobody actually remembers this statue. It was lost in time. And again, that just goes back to really drive home the point that power is temporary. The final line that we are left on is this whole idea of the lone and level sands that stretch far away. And again, we have this idea of nature being represented by that desert. It's huge, it's powerful, it's endless, it's all consuming. You know, that is the power that Ozymandias thought he had. It engulfs not just this one statue, but entire cities. The kingdom that he built was lost. No ruins, nothing. And that desert does this not with the arrogance of power that Ozymandias had, but with just that calm passivity, that confidence that comes through knowing that time will eventually do that work for it. If we're looking to connect this to other poems, think about those themes. If we're talking about war, that conflict between man and nature, the identity, people trying to maintain and keep their identity through, trying to leave some mark on the world of themselves so people remember their identity. Memory, them feeling that they will have power through that memory, but in fact, those memories over time never being able to last. And of course, power, the reflection that, people try to grab power, but ultimately will always be unable to. I hope this helped. Hope you enjoyed it. And thanks. Bye.